It seems that George Lucas is picking a side in this proxy fight with the Walt Disney Company, and he's chosen Disney CEO Bob Iger. Renegade Online. Well, folks, welcome back. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's good to see everybody out there once again. And if you are like one of the many watching this video not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and turn that little red subscribe button to gray. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, please do leave a comment before you head out the door today. Make sure to join us every Sunday afternoon at 6 p.m. Eastern right here for the live show. According to CNBC, breaking early this morning, George Lucas backs Disney CEO Bob Iger in a proxy fight with Nelson Peltz. This from Becky Quick. Filmmaker and Hollywood legend George Lucas is throwing his support behind Walt Disney CEO Bob Iger in the bitter proxy battle between the company and activist investor Nelson Peltz. Lucas, who received 37.1 million Disney shares as part of Disney's $4.05 billion purchase of Lucasfilm in 2012, is currently the largest individual investor in the company, multiple sources have confirmed to CNBC. Following the purchase of Lucasfilm by Disney, we've been speculating how many shares George Lucas actually retained over the last 12 years or so, and it seems like he's still got them all, as that's now been confirmed by CNBC. Lucas provided an actual statement to CNBC saying, "Creating magic is not for amateurs. When I sold Lucasfilm just over a decade ago, I was delighted to become a Disney shareholder because of my longtime admiration for its iconic brand and Bob Iger's leadership. When Bob recently returned to the company during a difficult time, I was relieved. No one knows Disney better. I remain a significant shareholder because I have full faith and confidence in the power of Disney and Bob's track record of driving long-term value. I have voted all of my shares for Disney's 12 directors, and I urge other shareholders to do the same." As disappointing as this is for many, it's even more curious to me just because of what has been done to George Lucas's properties since he sold them to Disney. I realize in 2012, George made what he thought was the best choice possible for the legacy of his franchises, namely Star Wars, but we've all seen what Disney has managed to do to that franchise in just a few short years following its acquisition. What's strange to me is the fact that George was openly none too happy with what was going on with his Star Wars franchise since Disney bought it. We all know that George had treatments prepared for a sequel trilogy that Disney then threw out. And even when asked during certain interviews what he thought about Star Wars or where it was going, he said, "Well, that's not mine anymore." George has been pretty hands-off, or rather dismissive, at least sometimes in public, with what Disney has done to what was once the greatest intellectual property commercial powerhouse in the history of Hollywood. Disney has lined up a number of high-profile endorsements in its battle against Peltz and his firm, Trian, from the heirs of Walt and Roy to J.P. Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon. Jamie Dimon is far less of a surprise considering Disney's history and relationship with Chase Bank over the years, and not to mention that Jamie Dimon and Bob Iger tend to run in the same social and political circles. Support from the Lucas endorsement is key, not only because of his role as Disney's largest individual shareholder, but also because of his standing in Hollywood. Lucas wrote and created the Star Wars and Indiana Jones franchises, some of the most popular films in history, and he helped pioneer tools such as digital film editing and computer-generated imagery. Peltz has asked investors to nominate him and former Disney Chief Financial Officer Jay Rasulo to the board at its annual general meeting on April 3rd. Among other things, Peltz wants to overhaul Disney's traditional TV channels, which he thinks have been a shrinking business. As of now, that's all the information we really have, but I'm sure there's going to be more coming in the next few days. One thing that has me wondering, though, is George is going to be 80 years old this year, and his health has been deteriorating. We saw some of that on stage at the Indiana Jones premiere, and that's a terrible thing. The man is a genius that has done a lot for Hollywood and a lot of fans out there. But what the audience needs to appreciate is that anybody in George's position has a team of advisors around him at all times for stuff like this, especially when it comes to legal and financial issues. And when it comes to voting Disney shares, of course, George's holdings would be one of those you would expect to always cast a ballot, unlike a lot of the regular mom and pops that might have 5, 10, or even 100 shares of the Walt Disney Company held individually. And with Bob Iger making strong pressure plays across the gamut to try to bolster support in this proxy fight against Peltz, who must have more behind him than we know, considering how far out of his way Bob Iger is going to get this done, well, maybe a lot of pressure was put on Lucas to make such a statement. Or maybe his advisors told him, nope, this is the best thing to do, not to rock the boat. Let Bob keep going because Nelson Peltz is going to destroy your Disney share value and you might lose hundreds of millions of dollars of wealth. We don't know. We're just speculating right now. All of those things are in the cards and on the table. But we, of course, will be monitoring this situation over the next few days to see if there's any more clarity coming forward. I want to read this statement provided by George Lucas one more time. Creating magic is not for amateurs. When I sold Lucasfilm just over a decade ago, I was delighted to become a Disney shareholder because of my longtime admiration for its iconic brand and Bob Iger's leadership. When Bob recently returned to the company during a difficult time, I was relieved. No one knows Disney better. I remain a significant shareholder because I have full faith and confidence in the power of Disney and Bob's track record of driving long-term value. Phrases like creating magic and referring to Disney as an iconic brand, bragging about Bob Iger's leadership coming back in a difficult time. Boy, there's a lot of folks out there that might be forgiven for thinking that that sounds exactly like something straight out of a multitude of recent Disney press releases. I have voted all of my shares for Disney's 12 directors. Technically, that may be true, but when you are at the level of wealth and assets of a George Lucas, well, those pieces of wealth and assets are broken up into a multitude of different entities, usually. Things like trusts or family-limited partnerships or different business enterprises. It's pretty unlikely that millions and millions and millions and millions of shares of Disney are all being held directly, personally, by George himself. So the people with the powers of attorney, the lawyers, the CPAs, the financial advisors, or the trustees in this case that manage these different enterprises for the Lucas family and the wealth of George Lucas, well, they would be advising George on what to do with this. They would be advising George on what to do with any of his holdings in this case. So if you're the Walt Disney Company and you wanted to get the endorsement and the vote of your single largest individual shareholder, as has been stated to CNBC, then those are the people that you would be talking to in addition to, if not in lieu of, George Lucas. And when you have a statement, like we said, that seems like it could have been written by Disney itself, well, you kind of have to scratch your head and wonder, does that mean there's anything illegal or nefarious going on here? No. But it certainly does go to show that Bob Iger is making a hard push against Nelson Peltz because he clearly fears what Peltz could be capable of in this proxy fight. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe George had a sudden change of heart with the Walt Disney Company and what has been done to his beloved Star Wars franchise over the last decade. Or maybe he really felt, like I said before, he didn't want to rock the boat in the latter stages of his life to make sure that his family's wealth was protected. Who knows? But he's relying on his advisors around him, and his advisors around him may be relying too much on statements from Disney itself. I hope that we'll hear a little bit more about this in the next few days and weeks, and we will, of course, cover it if and when it happens. But make sure you join us in early April for the Disney annual shareholder meeting. We'll be covering it live right here on Valiant Renegade because that's what all of this is guiding towards, and that's going to be the big show. We hope to see you there. And until next time, take care. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.